Recording in progress.
Good evening. I'd like to call the regular Board of Finance meeting for Monday, September 16th, 2024 to order. First item on the agenda, public forum. Anybody wishing to address the board in public forum? Seeing none. Item number 2, approve the minutes of our regular meeting on August 19th, 2024. Do we hear a motion?
Second.
Okay, any corrections, revisions?
I only had two.
Go for it.
One is, at the very top, I think you called the meeting order at 7:30 p.m. At least that's my recollection of it.
That's a good catch. Yes, that is true.
And then the only other suggestion I had was at the bottom of page 5, the sentence that, the paragraph that starts with Ms. Malvasi explained, they used to just issue, I think maybe we should just spell out what POs stands for.
Purchase orders.
Purchase orders.
Yeah.
Those are the only changes I had.
Okay. On page 3, under item number 5, fiscal year 2023-24, under expenditures, we just need to add the word "said" after Ms. Malvasi. So Ms. Malvasi said the same 4 areas they've talked about are over budget. And then I just wanted a confirmation on the last sentence in that paragraph. It says the final surplus number for the Board of Education is $103,195, which is correct, because that was mentioned earlier. But I don't recall whether she actually mentioned it again or she gave us surplus number.
She did, because it was wrong on the report that, one of the reports, it was off by a
So
little
she
bit.
did repeat
and
it?
She corrected, yeah, she
Okay.
confirmed that
I
it was
just
the
I just
number.
wanted to make sure, because it seemed repetitive, like maybe it was.
Yeah, I don't know
Just
if it needs to be in there, but
Okay.
it was.
I do recall that now,
mentioned,
that she
yeah.
had indicated.
Slight difference.
Yeah. Okay. So I actually have nothing further then. That was it. Anybody else? Okay. Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Great. Item number 3, correspondence standing building committee. These are the minutes from September 3rd of 2024. I did not have anything I know that the chairman, David DeMeo, is not on this evening. I know there was an issue that was brought up and was answered last meeting, and he indicated that there were no questions, but he does usually reach out to me, and I indicated that whatever questions that came up were answered, so that's why he indicated there was nothing. Anything on standing building that I could bring to his attention if needed?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just one
Yes.
thing I'd like to raise. At this morning's Board of Selectmen meeting, there was a somewhat substantial discussion about some of the change orders on some of the Board of Education projects. And this is not a new subject. Selectman Everett has expressed some concern over the last couple of years about the number of projects that come in with significant change orders. And we're not really sure whether these change orders are as a result of less than appropriate scoping of the projects before we go out to bid for them, or they are traditional change orders where we decide we're going to do something different than what we had originally thought. So at this morning's meeting, I offered to ask Chairman of the Standing Building Committee, Dave DeMeo, to come in and talk about the municipal bidding process so that we are a little more informed as to, how finely detailed we
Right
can
on
get.
cue.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. So I will be making that invite to come down and talk to the Board of Selectmen. And it's really just to understand, while we may have engineering experts, and Mike, you're in this business, I know this, right, as an architect, but it just seems as if there are sometimes a significant number of change orders that either should have been anticipated by expert design, or there are a number of items that you just can't really understand until you open up a wall, or you open up stuff, and that's the business you're in. So I think we're going to have a conversation. If Dave, let me just backtrack for a minute. There was a conversation this morning, Board of Selectmen meeting, about the number of change orders on some of the Board of Education projects. Lately, there have been a lot of those projects which are retrofits to existing buildings, which have caused a number of things to come to light that some folks think should have been caught in either the design phase or the engineering phase or whatever. So we're going to invite you to come talk to the Board of Selectmen about the whole process and about what we can reasonably anticipate knowing and not knowing when we go out to bid on a project where a contractor or an engineer defines a set of specs and then it turns out to be something different. The recent example this morning was the conductors, the electrical conductors at the old science wing. And the question was, how come we didn't know about this ahead of time? So we're gonna ask you to come at least give us a primer on how the process really works versus how we think it should work.
Sure, okay.
Thank you.
And two things. One, if possible, I mean, I would like to be included in that if I'm available. So if Dave, I'll let David speak to it, but I'd like to hear it just as kind of more of a liaison to the Board of Finance so that I could bring it back to here. The other thing that should be noted is that change orders they're usually grouped together. They're usually grouped in three different buckets. There's the owner generated, that there's something the owner wants. There's unforeseen conditions, which no one saw coming. And then there's the errors and omissions, which is design related. And usually you could take almost every change order that you ever get and put it in one of those three categories. So it might not be a bad idea that when change orders are brought up, that Cliff or somebody else says to the group, this is where this may fall. Sometimes you got to be careful of that because it could look like it's, well, is it really unforeseen or should have been foreseen? So, and that's the exact example you're bringing up. But I would like to be, if I'm available, I would like to be a part of that, and I will make, we'll make sure you are. If possible. But David can obviously speak to this much better than I can. Yeah. So.
Well, not necessarily, one business, just different incident.
No, I'm just trying to pass the ball over to you, David, that's all.
And in the case of these change orders, the case of the two for New England Road, for example, Silver Petroselli has reviewed these. We do have a robust conversation usually about the review process. It doesn't all get captured in the meeting minutes. And, the case of the conductors, that was clearly an unforeseen condition, and no design team is going to open up panels to the depth that would have been required in junction boxes to see that the existing conductors were actually undersized from day one, not for what the design was intended to be, but on this project, but really from the initial installation on that building, the conductors should have been a particular size based on the loads that they were carrying prior to this project. So you have to have some faith in what's there too, to some degree. So in that regard, this was clearly an unforeseen condition and wouldn't have been picked up, from any design team, in my opinion.
Dave, thank you very much for much more eloquently saying what I was trying to say this morning, which is most often we will present our documents on the original build. And the expectation is they were built to code at the time and to handle those kind of loads. So, thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Anything else while David joined perfect timing. Does anybody have anything else for David while he's on?
Dave, I'm a little curious about the other change order. It's a little smaller, but did we know possibly ahead of time about the sprinklers at 595 New England Road? Or was that unforeseen?
Yeah, so, well, I guess we did talk about this extensively too, and, the design team did open up ceilings and see where piping was routed. In this case, I think that the design team still did a good job and that they wouldn't have been able to pick this up. It's basically extending condensate drain lines from the dry sprinkler system they never were really brought outside the building. And the way they should have been in the original design. And, alluded to, during our discussion that in years past, when that building was, I believe, the science wing, his team had to go in once a year. They have to go in once a year to drain the condensate, usually before the freezing season, just so we don't have to freeze up in the dry system. There is condensation that builds up. And his team had to actually go up into the ceiling, rig a garden hose to the condensate drain and get it outside the building so they can drain the condensate. Now, you can make an argument that, Cliff didn't tell the design team that. But, that's all water over the dam.
Maybe they
But
could
in
predict
good
that.
design, with good construction, that condensate drain line should have been to an exterior wall with some type of a hose bib that maintenance could easily crack open annually, biannually, monthly, and drain the condensate.
I would, and it also should be a reminder that there's always contingency on these projects. That there's,
Right.
Of course, the further you go along in the design, the smaller that contingency is because you have refined things, but still you have owner contingencies and design contingencies and construction contingencies to cover these type of change orders. So it's not, you have a set amount, you can't go over that amount at all. That's built in. So you hope not to have to use it at all, and sometimes you don't, which is why numerous contracts that we have don't use the entire full amount because they didn't use a contingency. They didn't need it, so.
Well, it's hard for me to pick on something for around $5,000 when, given the history of this project, they started at $950. They came back for another $300 for the remodeling and the furniture. And then because of, I think it was material and labor, it got re-estimated to be maybe a $1.7 million project. So I'm wondering if this thing is going to end up being a $2 million project.
No,
See as we go.
Obviously, everything should be built into it at this particular moment. Otherwise, I got to go back to the taxpayers, and that it's all built in.
This morning's change orders, I think, amounted to about $53,000, so it's not.
Yeah.
And
Those two added together were 33.
And my understanding is that's within the contingency
Yeah.
of this project originally, so.
Yeah.
And we're probably, they're probably 6 weeks away from completion based on the schedule. The heavy lifting is already done. They're in the finishes and things of that nature. So I think anything that may get generated is probably going to be on the owner side
Okay.
on this project.
Anything else for standing building? Great, excellent. Thank you, David, for joining.
Look forward to that invitation. Take care.
Talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Item number 2, under correspondence, pension committee minutes. Anything under pension committee or the investment report?
I just have a couple of facts and figures to throw in. I did a little investigating. We've been wondering informally here about the state of the pension fund and how it's doing. At the moment, the education portion is funded at 70%. The police are funded at 76.5%, and the town portion is funded at 85%. The reason for the Board of Ed side being lower is because that's the only group that's allowed to take lump sum distributions. And in a long-term, low-interest rate environment, whenever anybody does that, it tends to have an amplified effect. Now, the pension committee has said that they've committed to bringing that number up for the Board of Ed to 79% by the year 2030. And by the year 2039, they want each and every one of these funded at 100%. I was going to go a little bit farther and have this go into some of the rating comments that we had last week and some of the facts and figures, but it's because it's a component to the way that we're viewed by rating agencies. But since the finance director is not here this evening to correct me and keep me in line, I'll defer till another opportunity. Thanks.
At least not both of them.
Yep.
I got a question about the special benefits group. And I noticed in the minutes that there's a group of employees that have some special defined benefits that are I guess, a little different from the GSA plan that they might have come out of to begin with. And I was curious, what are those extra benefits for that group?
I believe that's the finance, not finance director, it's HR, it is police chief, fire chief, the deputy fire chief, and there may be one other. And those are folks that are currently members, or currently still receiving benefits from the defined benefit plan. And those were separately negotiated contracts back when those employees first started with the town. So they are a separate bargaining group, even though they are individual contracts.
So they fall outside of
GSA.
the defined contribution plan for the GSA?
Yes, they do.
And then
And I don't believe there's anybody, well, let me think, GSA. No, I think Anna Dwyer is still in the GSA. There's only a couple current department heads who are still in the GSA unit that are receiving defined benefit plan.
And then what are the specifics of those defined benefit plans for that special?
I'd be happy to share that document with you.
Yeah, it's probably a lot.
It is. It's a fully baked document.
I was curious, what is the difference though?
It's relatively consistent with most of the other plans. It's 2.25% per year for year of service, averaged against the last 3 years of their earnings power. So that's how that program traditionally works. Bob?
One thing I forgot to mention that came up last month, one of the rating agencies says in paper that if you've got market expectations of 6%, you're golden, and ours is 5.75%, so we're right.
Well, interestingly enough, that we had a conversation with our advisors that said we may eventually get dinged for being too conservative on our assumption rate, and that we were potentially over taxing our employees. The conventional thinking is you can't be too conservative on a long-term basis.
Right.
With the assumption rate.
Right. All right, so the rating agencies, just expand for a touch, their job is to rate our bonds. They don't look at anything else. We think we have other agencies at the state level and so forth, other municipal agencies that advise us.
Right.
When it comes to just rating agencies, they're just looking at our debt rating.
Right.
So at the moment, Guilford's 5-year obligations are trading at 2.78%.
All right.
It's over a point less than Govey's.
You're right.
U.S. Treasuries at the same rate. Part of the reason for that is that municipal bonds are not taxed at the federal level. And the same is true at the 10-year level. The bottom line being, yes, I understand about the potential of being dinged one way or the other, but then otherwise, if it's not like that, then you can turn to the taxpayers to make up the difference. So it's, yeah, damned if you do, damned if you don't, but I'd rather be conservative.
Thank you very much for that consideration. Yeah, 25 basis points,
No, yeah.
it's not going to make a difference to most people's taxes, right?
No.
At the end of the day, in terms of what we're estimating the contribution to the pension fund,
Right.
it probably won't make that much of a difference.
All right.
You know, I hate when we overtax, but I think that's close enough, and I'd rather lean
Thank you.
conservative as well.
Thank
So
you.
we'll come together on
Well,
something like that.
For the record, you and I are on the same.
I know,
Well,
right? It's happened.
it's all about access to markets. The rating agencies, it's funny what they do and don't care about. And what they really cared about is how fast you can get out of trouble if you bump into it.
Exactly.
So our access to markets
Is
is fabulous. Yeah.
give a AAA rating on both of the agencies, and our also proven ability to tax. I hate to say that.
Yeah, it's true.
But that's one of the components. We have a wealth profile in this community that we can raise money if we need to on our general operating budgets.
Right. All right, I'll save the rest for next month.
I just have one more question. It's not really too much for the Board of Finance, but Linda, I was just wondering, you're going to be our finance director next year, right?
What?
Okay.
Yes, you saw her name in the,
I saw something, and I just
I
was wondering.
I would give you more notice if I was retired from this position.
Okay, good news, good news. Glad to hear it.
all good. Anything else on pension or on OPEB?
Now, was it my imagination, or was it kind of a good month?
It was a very good month.
How'd your portfolio do?
I know.
Yeah.
I got pretty jealous,
Mine-
actually.
Mine was up.
Yeah. Not bad.
It was a good month.
We had a little bounce, but recovery is always nice.
It was 2 Septembers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, if nothing further on pension or OPEB? Item number 4, review and accept the report of expenditures for the Board of Education for August 2024. Linda Trudeau will come up in person. Jennifer Baldwin, understand you are joining us by Zoom. Good evening.
Hello. Good evening.
And there she is.
Yes, so sorry guys, I'm actually in Orange for my daughter's swim meet, so I'm gonna do this as best I can.
Thank you for taking the time out this evening.
Of course. So, gonna just jump right in.
Sure.
The expenditures for the month of August 2024 were $5,318,285.96. This represents 15.5% of the budget as compared to 13.99% in the year prior. This is due to the timing of some of these expenses. Revenue for the month of August was $712.77 for non-resident tuition and $200 for pre-K. Salaries were higher than the prior year. Employee benefits were higher than the prior year. Tuition is higher than the prior year. And again, this is all just due to the timing of expenses. Like, for example, teacher salaries were paid at the end of August instead of the beginning of September. Purchase services is lower right now, and supplies and materials are in line. Capital is a bit higher, and the total of the warrants being presented is $3,044,622.23. There you go.
Well done. Any questions regarding the financials?
You know, I guess I have a question, but I'm really trying to go back in time and ask you, what did our surplus sort of end up being at the end of the year? It looked, last time I got the documents last month, like we maybe only had about 20,000 after encumbrances. But did we end up with a surplus?
That was the 103 number.
Yeah, it's 103,000.
It is 103?
Yes.
Okay. Is that kind of an accurate number from last go-around, or did it shift a little?
That's the same.
Okay.
Transfer's already done.
Yep.
Everything's all set.
Yep.
So that's the final number.
Thank you.
Okay. Warrants. I was scanning through this and I had a number of, I actually had a number of questions this time. Usually I don't, but I'll try to be quick. On page number 1, and on some of these I don't know that it's, none of it has to do with special ed or tuition or anything, but the first page there were, there was the student, there was something called Student Accident 2425. Is that insurance?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's the student accident insurance policy.
Okay, that's all I need to know. I just want to make sure it wasn't a student accident. Figured it was insurance. Scrolling down, page 5. No, I'm sorry, page 4 of 15. A.W. Cox Music Pit and Adams Ceiling by the same contractor. There were two invoices there that were paid. Were those part of our capital budget?
Yes,
That was pulled out of capital, right? So we had already budgeted for those?
yes.
Okay.
That was part of the site improvement budgets.
Some of these may be very easy. I couldn't remember off the top of my head, so. Page 5 of 15, about 10 down, the 23-24 lease payment, ACH paid. Cogent Bank, that lease is for, what
So
is?
that is the capital lease.
Yeah.
So that was for the.
Oh, is that for the
The
technology?
technology lease. the
Oh, that's
capital lease.
technology. Oh,
Yes.
okay. I didn't pick up the fact that Cogent Bank and that would, okay.
Yeah, so we
Technology.
actually have
3 of our leases
Okay.
are with Cogent Bank.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We started using them 3 years ago.
Oh, great. Okay.
So they were the most competitive rate, willing to do a lease of our size. Couple of companies that we were working with before didn't want to work with the so-called smaller lease amounts that we were doing. They were looking for $1 million or higher.
Okay.
So,
What
Cogent-
do we lease, about $250,000, $500,000?
About half.
It was a half. This current year was $630,000.
Okay.
It has Chromebook replacements, the display TVs, the display screens are in the schools, entryways, those, some office computers that are in desperate need of replacing, and then a van for the facilities department.
Oh, man, too, okay.
That's why I started calling it a capital lease as opposed to a technology lease, because I didn't want it includes more than just technology now.
Hey, 600,000 doesn't seem that small.
Relative to other districts, I guess we are.
Maybe.
8 of 15. Closer to the bottom, Johnson Controls. There's maintenance for building maintenance systems. Is that for multiple schools? Or one particular school?
That's
I'm
just the high
assuming
school.
that's
I think
just the high
that's
school?
just the high
Maintenance for
school.
building
Yes,
okay.
I think that's the annual fee for the maintenance of the system at the high school.
At the high school, so that's, okay, one school, high school. Page 9, right at the top. High school window shades, is that a replacement or something that is in, do you recall, was that replaced window shades or is that new based on a need?
I don't remember. I'd have to
Okay.
go back and look.
Okay.
I can let you know.
I'm just curious whether they needed to be replaced. Or, for example, the sun was coming in and they needed to install new shades because of an issue. And then I think I have one more. Page 11 of 15, near the bottom, Adams flooring replacement. That also was part of our capital, right?
Yes,
And so then that was budgeted, that
right. That's
amount.
part of the. Every year, there's a certain amount budgeted
For
for
flooring.
flooring, and he has a replacement schedule that he tries to
Okay.
keep up with. Unfortunately, that's one of the first areas where it gets cut if we have to spend someplace else.
Okay.
So it's the rotation of the flooring replacement.
I did have one more, and it was the very, very, very last one. It was vaping sensors.
Yes,
I'm very happy there's vaping sensors.
yes.
However, is that across multiple schools? Or just, again, focused on maybe the high school or?
I know they're in the high school. I think it might be multiple schools.
Okay.
And it's not every bathroom.
It's not listen, it's not a huge amount, but I again, just curious, it was handling multiple schools or just the high school?
Yeah, I know it's definitely the high school. I'm not sure if it's multiples. I can
Okay.
double check on that one too.
Not that vaping can't be happening in younger grades, which is why I was wondering if it was extended past the high school, just in case. So,
Yes.
good, all right. Those were all my questions on, it was a lot this month, but I looked at them a little bit more this time for some reason.
Sometimes certain things jump out.
Sometimes they do.
Yeah, there's-
Sometimes they don't.
Some different names, there are different dollar amounts. I did not send out a tuition report. You'll get one next month.
Yeah.
I do want to report, though, that we did bring back 2 students into the district that were going to be outplaced. So they were budgeted as an outplacement, and through a IEP process, we were able to bring them back into district. So that is definitely good news for our tuition line starting off the year.
Great, good news. We'll look forward to the report next month.
Yes.
Following up on that, and just to go back to the financials, I see the special services is running a little higher than it was at this time last year, but I don't know if that was because the school year started a little earlier, or if it was because we're anticipating it, we're off to a faster pace. It's on the first page. I'm sorry, it's on the second page of the special services.
Yeah, I looked at that. I think right now that is just timing, because we did increase that budget a little bit. So the fact that that is already a higher percentage, but it looked like just a timing situation on that one.
Okay,
for one of the larger billings that we have.
right.
This goes to the minutes of the last meeting, and speaking of special services, there were this is last year's budget, but transfers from last year's budget, almost $1.8 million. From 3 areas: salaries, benefits, $800,000, and tuition, $600,000. And there was sent over to a number of things, one of which was $505,000 to special services. Does that seem normal and regular, and does that track previous years, or is that outstanding?
It was a little bit different, and part of it is the students that we brought back into district that we put into the transition academy would have been outplaced students are now in district, but they require extra services. So where we didn't spend the tuition money, we're spending the contracted services to provide the related services that these students need. So we're saving it on the tuition, but costing in contracted services. The other part of the increase for contracted services is we had to replace a teacher that was on an extended leave of absence. And the only way to replace that teacher was with a contracted service. So while we had a little bit of savings in salaries, we spent it in contracted services. And the contracted services was more than the teacher's salary.
Okay, and the $800,000 transfer out of benefits, was that a true surplus, or is that?
That was the final medical budget number that we got after the budget was completed.
Okay.
Will we see that same pattern with these students that were out of district, but you're pulling them back in, where we do save for the added tuition cost, but then some of the special education costs?
We will for the two
We'll
that I
take
just
away from
spoke
that.
about. It may not be as high because some of the services
They're sort of there already, right?
already there.
Yeah.
Some of them will have to be student specific, but the ones that were brought back into district previously, we've now budgeted for those appropriately. We reduced our tuition budget and increased our
okay.
contracted services budget
Okay.
because we knew that these
So
costs
you
were
know
gonna-
the savings there. Okay.
Right.
But with the caveat that, as we've heard and as you've experienced, those needs can change
Yes.
from month to month or year to year for the same student. So a student who's getting services in September of 2024 may be getting different services in November or December of 2024.
And there could be a student who's not on our radar at all right now, and partway through the year is going to need services.
Right.
Or an outplacement. It changes quite frequently.
Still good news.
Yes.
I also read somewhere in the minutes about enrollment that seems to be fairly, did I read it as flat, pretty
Yes.
flat? October 1st, as I know,
Right.
is when it's officially reported.
So you'll get the official report next month.
Next month,
with,
right. Yeah.
with when I send out the tuition report, I'll send you the tuition.
Yeah, it's always good to know that
Enrollment
information, just where we,
report.
where we stand.
Especially as we head into the budget season,
Right.
which I'm sure I made a lot of people happy today. I sent out the budget forms to start the budget process in the schools for the 25-26 budget.
They can't wait for those.
I'm sure I made a lot of people happy today sending those out.
We are 3 weeks into the school year.
10 days. It's our 10th day of school.
But who's counting, right?
Like, I was looking for something to say other than, I know we just started school, so I counted the number of days and put, I know we're only 10 days in, but we're happy 10th day of school, I think I
Yeah.
put. Yes.
Have to remember that when we talk about budget season, it is actually middle September when the forms go out.
Yeah, yeah. It went out, they went out today to the principals and the other areas.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Anything else for the Board of Education? All right, if not, I will entertain a motion to accept the report of expenditures in August 2024 for the Board of Ed. Sorry, Board of Education. Do you want the amount first?
No,
Okay.
I'm good with it.
In the amount of $5,518,285.96.
505 million.
What did I say?
It's 5.5, it's 5.3.
$5,318,285.96.
Yes.
Did you get it right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay?
Then I'm so moved.
Maybe I just slurred my words. Okay, so we got a motion, second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed, abstentions, recusals? All right, great.
Big number.
Thank you,
Might see-
Jennifer.
Might see on your.
Good luck to your
electric
daughter.
Good luck with your swim meet.
Yeah.
Thank you. She's about to swim, so I'm
Okay,
ready to
perfect,
go.
perfect.
Good timing.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thank-
Bye.
Thanks, Linda. Item number 5, review and approve the report of expenditures for town government for August 2024. Sandy. Hello.
Okay. All right,
So Sandy O'Freddie is temporarily filling in for Mary Jane Melvase, so, okay,
Okay, revenues.
yes.
All our reports are as of August 31st, 2024. We're 16.6% through the year. Revenues are currently at 51.6 collected. This is down slightly from last year, but some of the differences are due to budget changes. For instance, finance is currently at 22.6, down from 37.2 from last year. However, the budget has almost doubled year over year. Therefore, the interest income is still holding strong. And let's see, other budgets that have increased budgets are the fire department, golf course, youth and family services, and park and rec. On the flip side, town clerk and the health budget were reduced, which helped to account for their increases in percentage over the last year. Selectmen's revenue is down from last year since we have not held an auction or surplus equipment yet this year. And overall revenues are currently over 50%, which is where we would expect them to be at this time of the year due to the first installment of the tax collection for the year.
Questions?
Police is also a lot higher at this time this year than it was last year. I can't remember, was there a similar adjustment to their revenue like there was with the town clerk and the health department? Or is there?
Believe there was, appears to me like it's a timing issue, that difference. I can't confirm it, but it seems like it's a timing issue.
Yeah, it seems.
Because that budget the police budget did not change.
I don't believe it did.
Yeah.
Not to that degree.
I will check.
Okay, thanks.
I think that's largely around the construction that's happening on Whitfield Street. The outside services jobs is a little bit higher than it has been in previous years,
That would make sense.
which has been an occasional pain in the neck as I try to get to work every day.
You're sharing with
So I should be riding my bike, right?
It's kind of dangerous.
For me, it is. You're
Or
right.
mine, it doesn't get any use.
So I got some questions about last month and how it all kind of wound out for the year. I think with the figures I saw, it was somewhere close to like $1.5 million surplus.
Are we talking about simply the revenue?
Revenue
side?
and some of the extra money we had too, that we saved on expenses.
I
Sandy?
don't
Yeah.
have that.
Okay.
I only have the current months.
I would offer that perhaps Sandy wasn't prepared, did not prepare to answer questions along those lines, and would suggest that we
Yeah,
wait
we-
until we have Mary Jane back to
Absolutely.
answer those questions.
Absolutely.
Maybe,
Yeah.
basically I
If you
saw.
would- If you would frame the questions, I think we can take them back
Yeah.
for Mary
Yeah.
Jane.
I mean, basically, I saw we took about 891,000 and we pushed it into carry forward, but that leaves us somewhere around 600,000. And then, of course, I'd like to motion that we return it to the taxpayers. Anyone would like to second that, we could maybe talk about it. And then, of course,
Mr. Chairman, I would say that's premature. We don't have audited financials yet, so to suggest that there is a final number is a little premature, and you might want to wait until we have audited financials before you make that kind of recommendation.
all right, fair
Does that make
enough.
sense?
But, yeah, I'm looking for that. And then, of course, if the board doesn't see it that way, also the possibility of maybe reducing debt with it, doing something really useful with it.
That is something that we probably will be discussing in the future. I don't know if it'll be from our operating budgets, but I know one of the things that I've been looking at is the medical, personally. I can't speak for everybody, but I think although we did take a little bit of a hit on
Yeah,
medical.
medical, I don't know, we didn't really pull a
This past
surplus,
month,
did
we
we?
took, there was
We were in the
a
hole.
high number. But there's still there's still some reserves in there, or a balance in there that could be used for OPEB. And I think that would be an incredibly prudent use of it, to be able to move it there.
Okay, but for the year, we
But that's
were,
just my opinion.
we had a deficit, right, for the year
We had a from last year?
on medical.
No,
No?
we didn't.
Okay, I was looking at the last
No,
one, I thought it was
there's a-
40,000 deficit.
There's a projected deficit
For
for
the,
fiscal
for
year.
this,
Projected.
for this year, yeah, it's projected, but there could be a $500,000 expense and offset it, and then we're back to,
And I think Sandy actually has an explanation for why we're projecting a deficit in that account, which is the second month of billing, which was not necessarily reflective of just an average month.
Right. I mean,
go ahead. Please.
well, for one thing, the expenses are higher because it's a 5-week month, not a 4.
Okay,
So if it
that
was
explains
a 4-week month, it would have been only $1,043,000 opposed to what it was.
okay,
And we did have, just 1 month in, you have one member that's already over the SL limit, and 5 over 150,000, and 5 at 75,000. So it's,
yeah, I jumped ahead a little bit, but, I mean, we were talking about, possible surpluses, or, I jumped ahead, but I
Could be
think,
something in medical too.
but, well, I think waiting for Mary Jane next month and having that discussion would be
yeah, because
better.
at this point, she said, we're projecting a deficit of 224,000 at the moment.
At the moment.
Yes.
Right, which,
However, we do anticipate a deficit by year end.
okay,
So, and the IBNR has been adjusted as of 6/30 to bring the figure up to 88,000.
okay,
So,
okay. Anything else on revenues alone, before we move on to expenses? Okay,
okay.
expenses.
Expenditures are at 22.5% at the end of August, up slightly from last year's 21.3. Overall expenditures are tracking where they should be at this time. Some of the departments are more than 16.6 spent due to the timing of payments, and those departments include information systems, insurance, human services, employee benefits, and capital. The golf course continues to see an increase in usage. They are 30% spent as of the end of August, including encumbrances, but that is offset by the 37% that they have brought in as revenue. Other departments are over 16.6 due to encumbrances, as shown on the report. For example, the fire department would be at 16.8 without encumbrances, putting them on target for the first 2 months of the year. Principal payments for debt are currently overdrawn. This is due to the budget's use of premium credits that will not be transferred into this line until after January, when all debt payments are finalized.
Questions on expenditures? Did not have any.
No, I mean,
Nope,
we knew the information systems.
Yep.
It's really nothing you don't feel the need to make trouble.
2 months in. Okay. Special fund warrants. Anything on, I'll just open it up to any of the warrants at all. The largest special fund warrant is obviously for the Nut Plains Road reconstruction. Sandy or Matt, do we know, how far are we along in terms of payment on that? 50% through, 60% through, first payment? I can't remember if
I
I've.
don't recall. Did Mary Jane provide the
She
report
did.
last month?
She did the capital report, so just
Last
go,
month?
I'll go back to
Yeah,
that.
I don't recall
Yeah.
where the progress payments were, but
Okay.
certainly we can get that for you.
I'm sure I could look back at August, look at the capital report, see where we stand. I was just curious.
Will Whitfield Street be showing up on this next month, or is that?
Whitfield Street doesn't cost us anything other than
It's all water company.
the revenue on the extra services, because that's a Connecticut Water Company project. They pay for that entirely, and then to to answer some questions that we've had at the Selectmen's office, yes, they will repave the road when it's done.
Yeah.
Which-
Nah, they're gonna leave
What do
it
you
at
think our hydrogen bill's gonna be next year?
Yeah, I will pay it through hydrants instead.
That could be scary.
No, that gets baked into the rate base, which probably does include fire hydrants. but-
We see what it is this month.
A lot of competition out
Well, I have the original
monopolies.
budget, I have the original budget of the Nut Plains that I'm looking back at from the capital, it's 760, 760,000.
I will say they found a lot
So-
more ledge than they originally thought they were going to get.
did
Yeah, I think
could've told them.
I think Bob sees, goes around that corner, there's not much of a corner left anymore, right? But they're going to stay within budget on this project, is what we
Good.
understand. The modifications have been made, so.
there. We always
And
find
I'll bore some of you to tears later with my relationship with the Dorita Construction Company. There's nothing untoward about it.
we always find it interesting and remarkable when something happens.
That's right.
Okay, warrants and medical. Anybody have any other questions on medical or any? I think we kind of covered that already, so. At least I didn't have anything further. Okay. Anything else for Sandy? Sandy, anything else for us?
Just
Okay,
approve our expenses.
we'll do that. I hope.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the report of expenditures in August 2024 for town government in the amount of $4,782,250.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Recusals? Excellent. Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you very much.
Don't be a stranger, come back again sometime.
I think she'll avoid it at all costs as long as Mary Jane promises to show up.
Always does a good job when
Yeah,
filling
she
in for
does.
Mary Jane, all good. Item number 6, committee reports, building permits. Okay. Hearing nothing further on that. Anything under item 7, old business? Okay. Item number 8, new business. I do have an item. We are going to hear more about it next month, but I want to just bring to everyone's attention that it came to both my attention and I don't know if it was
And it's
our first selectman or the
office as well.
entire board, but I'm sure the entire board is aware of it now. And I'm letting you all know. The Early Voting Act has created quite a bit more time and effort on the Registrar of Voters' part. And so it was brought to our attention, and, you know, as an example, on the general election, the start of the early voting period is 15 days before Election Day and ends 2 days before, so it's a duration of 14 days. And if you go through each of the voting requirements for each of the types of elections, general election, primary, presidential preference, primary, and special election, they range from 4 days to 14 days of early voting. There's quite a bit of effort that is being put forth by the Registrar of Voters that came to our attention, and I think it would be, I think it's more of a request of the Registrar of Voters that they're going to provide additional detail for us next month regarding their efforts and their time spent, and possibly have us, I guess, reconsider, because we did increase their salaries was it 1 year ago? I think it was. It was
You
maybe
guys were a
2.
year late and you caught up.
Yeah, I could look back, but it was recently, it was within the last 2 years. And this particular early voting act, they would like us to look at a request financially, either as part of or in addition to their compensation. They're going to bring, I think Mitch Goldblatt is going to.
Yeah, we're going to get some data from what's happening elsewhere. This is not, we're not the only community in the state that's facing this challenge. And there is a significant amount of discussion going on about how to treat their increased responsibilities and in what form of compensation, either salary or stipends or a combination of both or whatever. But suffice to say, there will be some, I would anticipate there'll be some adjustments that will need to be made because people's job descriptions have changed. And their hours, anticipated hours of work have changed as well.
And this will probably come up when we meet with them next month, but is it falling on the registrars themselves doing it, or they're going to need to hire additional people, like
Well,
poll workers?
The
or additional-
registrars have to be there every day that they have folks in doing early voting. They're in the office, making sure the process is working the way it's supposed to be. So
And
they're going to be there a lot more days than they ever had been.
So these are 10, 12-hour days, right, for 14 days in a row?
Yeah, you're right.
And then I thought they were hiring some people, but you're saying, did they both have to be there, or at least one of them has to be there? Or?
For general elections, they both have to be there. If it's a primary, only
Just
one.
one side?
If there's only one primary, it differs, but generally you want both of them there because they are the ones that have to handle the registrations on their respective parties.
Now, I was told that with the primary, sorry, Rob, one more point, that there was only like 16, I think, early voters for like a 10-day. I mean, it's notoriously low turnout for just the primary. General elections should be higher.
Yeah,
But I mean,
general,
we're talking about probably pretty few numbers of people that'll do this.
Yeah, but you have to staff for, 2 or 3 people to be there the entire time
Yep.
so that they can accept it.
You don't know how many
I think,
Oh, yeah.
my
Have to do it.
personal belief is
Mandate.
that there will be enough anecdotal evidence presented to the legislature and the Secretary of State that there will be some changes in terms of the number of days that it's allowed. And quite honestly, if I had a magic wand, I'd say no excuse absentee voting. Why are we playing this shell game? Why are we playing the shell game?
Right. No, it's just for a point of reference, just at the moment, their compensation is based on a short day, 3 days a week.
Yeah.
So it's in theory, a part-time job.
Right.
Which for that period of time becomes a full-time job plus overtime.
Yeah.
And one of the things we've also, or at least what was brought to my attention is off hours. It's not even, it's the planning and the scheduling that goes into it.
Oh, yeah.
That is beyond just being in the office, but at night, trying to make sure that all of those poll workers and those people that are volunteering to be in the office, and it's a lot of backup work.
Just trying to identify potential folks to come work and then scheduling them, et cetera, that does take time. Now, can they do some of that on their 9.5 hours a week? Yes, they can, but you're right. There is extra work in order to coordinate that work as well. So.
I guess not huge money, but any possibility the state might help with the bill?
Well, yeah, the state gave us 10 grand for early voting. That's about how much we got. So.
It's an unfunded mandate, is the best way to look
That's
at
what I
it.
think too.
And the anticipation was that most of that money was going to go directly to poll workers or folks that had to be there for early voting.
Yeah.
So.
I do recall that when this was a possibility in early voting, it was, oh boy, this is going to be quite a bit of work. Let's see how it shakes out.
Right.
And now it's shaken out to the point where now we have some numbers and days and
Well, and
some efforts.
And to Jonathan's
that could back
point,
up.
an uncontested primary election where, we get 1 or 2 voters a day over a 14-day period, that begs the
Yeah, I
question.
think it was 10 days, 10-day early voting for
Yeah.
primary.
Well, that just begs the question. That
7 days, yeah.
begs the question, why can't we do no excuse absentee ballots? Because that's in effect what early voting is. Right? Yes, and I'm sure there are some folks who are doing absentee voting and they're in town that day, but it's just they didn't know if they were going to be in town that day, so they made sure that they.
So I just want to
Of
make
course, there is that part of the form where you have to attest that says
You're unavailable?
potentially unavailable.
But 2 weeks is,
But I think, in fairness to the registrars, I think we have to look at this. Right?
Right.
it's not what they signed up for.
So,
And by the way, it
Go
will
ahead.
probably fall back to this board because you folks are the the ones that determine elected officials' compensation. We'll be happy to help you in whatever form we can.
So in October, that will be a agenda item that we will be talking about. Anything else under new business? Item 9, public forum. Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
No discussion?
No discussion.
All right, so here's the